no choice for the communities when it came to borrowing. For instance, the communities could not choose how much they want to borrow, when they want to borrow, for how long they want to borrow, and on what terms. The whole choice architecture was latently missing in the ecosystem. And what we did was essentially that. So we have a peer-to-peer lending platform which is regulated by the Reserve Bank of India. We make credit affordable because we raise this capital from individuals, and we give the communities the complete choice architecture. So when you combine affordability with choice, it becomes a game changer. And that's exactly what we're trying to do here.
So it is personalization allows the availability of capital at the borrower's terms.
Yes.
When he needs it, for how long he needs it, and when any support you need from any of us, I think we are both there for you. So very grand initiative, and kudos to you for that, and best wishes for many other things. So Dr. Ravi Shankar, how would you define your work? I'm like, I know, but in 2-3 lines, if you have to define, I know we are not doing it justice, but आप अगर कैसे करें?
First and foremost, I want to thank the organizers and the host. Thank you, Manish. Good friends. I will describe in one sentence, make it better and keep it in 30 seconds. It is at the confluence of data, technology and agriculture that I think I know 1% of what is the ocean. Yeah, and when I say agriculture, I mean, I've spent 25 years looking at all aspects at the grassroots level. Yeah. So this is what I would describe myself as.
Okay. I mean, again. Okay. Now so the premise basically is that, you know, the soil has gone so bad that the fields do not produce any food. And if you don't take care right now, I mean, we'll have to look upward space. And that's why people like Elon Musk are, you know, taking in tons of investments. How many of us have heard of doomsday clock? Okay, yeah, I see a few hands over there. So, doomsday clock was started around in June 1947, and it started with, I think, 7 minutes before midnight, that the world will come to an end, and every year in January it is reset. The furthest it has been away is, I think, 17 minutes from 12 o'clock, from midnight. Midnight is doomsday strikes. And it's been pushed back 7 times and pushed forward some 17 times. And what we have now is, last year it had moved 20 seconds, 10 seconds I'm told, and was 90 seconds away from midnight. And this year, thankfully, fortunately, it has stayed at 90 seconds. So that's why the reason of a conference like this, when, you know, minds can meet and see what the other party needs, and can we make things in a more sustainable manner? Can we make things so that instead of 90 seconds it goes back to 190 seconds, and probably, you know, 2 minute 90 seconds? How can we, you know, give back to the earth? I've also used one line. I actually got it from my daughter. If we don't take care of this earth today, तो अनर्थ हो जाएगा. Okay. Now, starting with that, we'll start with the first line of question, which is essentially, okay, what are the challenges in environmental sustainability in rural India?
Yeah, so I will answer that question, share my thoughts, but limiting to agriculture. When you say rural India, there are various aspects of sustainability pertaining to water, environment, etc., etc.
True.
But I'll take agriculture, and the reason I will do that is agriculture is a way of life. More than 90% of our farmers are smallholders. For them, it's a way of life. So I will answer that question from the agricultural perspective. So challenges relating to sustainability in rural India is multiple. I will sort of highlight 5 of them or 4 of them. It starts with overuse of chemicals, number 1. Number 2, deforestation. Number 3, biodiversity erosion. Number 4, gender inequality. And number 5 would be lack of access to resources, including credit. These are the 5 challenges. And sustainability is a multi-dimensional, I would say, phenomenon, right? Not even a concept. So, and rural India is as complex as it can get, as diverse as it can get, for a simple reason that we have more than 6.5 lakh villages in our country today, and there are more than 750 districts in the country. From sugarcane to saffron, from cotton to coconut, everything can be grown and cultivated in India. It's quite a different matter that it's not sustainable because of various reasons. So I will pause at this, and maybe Ram can also reflect on the same question.
Yeah, I think especially in rural, sustainability boils down to livelihoods. So how do you create, especially in a country like India, you have a large, people who are self-employed, and they are, so, and we are also, largely, focused on farming, and in this, you'll see across the sectors, right? Be it farming, be it artisans, be it micro entrepreneurs, self-employed. And the common thread across all of these is credit access. And in our experience, what we've seen is lack of credit can make their livelihoods.
Can I also add credit at the right kind of costing? Because what kind of credit is available has a huge cost attached to it, right?
Two things. I think there's also this misconception when it comes to credit, saying that it's, it's high. But most of the time, the challenge is the access itself is, it's not there, right? So given that, so Nandan Nilgiri once famously said, India is not only a poor country, we're a data poor country as well, right? So how do you therefore lend money to communities who don't have data? So at Ramli, we've taken a very unconventional approach, which is to work with partners on the ground, and we underwrite the risk by leveraging the social capital which our partners enjoy with the communities. So in our experience, what we've seen is we're able to enable sustainability at scale by providing communities just in time access to credit, which is beautifully aligned with their own cash flows. So the result is that they don't even realize that they've actually borrowed. Yeah, because they see that they were given the credit right at the time when they were perhaps needed during the input season, and then in the post harvest, and that's when they expected to repay. So that's where we see a massive impact of credit, which is enabling sustainable livelihoods.
So he went to his village after a few years, after completing his studies, and he saw the fields are empty. And when he asked what's happening, he said, it is not only capital, but even access to a tractor or a sower or a blower or even seeds for that matter. You're not getting them. You ask for seeds today, you get it a week later. By that time, the sowing season is over. Okay, or the yield that you will get is far lesser. So I think, do you think also apart from tech trickling down over there, do you think there's a need of reverse brain drain of people who have achieved something in life? They have to come back to these villages and help these people out through various means by say digitizing the supply chain over there in the rural side and other kind of thing?
So there are two aspects to this. One is we need to stem the rural-urban migration. You need to arrest it first, because our urban infrastructure is bursting at its seams. Right? So number one. Actually, the biggest tragedy, human tragedy in this century, COVID-19, also had an upside. Some techies, for example, as an example, so-called techies, our last panel I had quite a few of them. Some of those kind of tribe, if you will, did come back to their farmhouse, weekend farmhouse, or their parents, brothers, 10 acres, 5 acres. But then that was a blip, right? So it's not easy. Agriculture is not easy. Some of them have been successful, most of them have burnt their hands. Most of them are friends, by the way. So, larger question is, rather than getting urban folks back to rural India, I want rural youth to become self-employed and become job givers. I want, see, the biggest tragedy or biggest crisis that is already upon us and will become amplified a million times over is labor scarcity, among others.
True.
I am seeing, when I spend in a month 3 days in a village randomly picked up in India, wherever. I throw a dart in map. There's a map in the house, I go there. The thing is, I see farmers 50 years, 60 years, 70 years. They are the ones, most of them, 99%, working in their farm. Their young children, educated, uneducated, nobody wants to do work at farm.
No.
This is a looming crisis, but there are solutions also. And I'll just touch upon this and then we can go to the next query. So there's a wave of farm automation and mechanization happening as we speak. Right from the drones as the highest denominator on example to small battery operated sprayers, for example. Yeah, you have all kinds of automation. Again, affordable, accessible. It's not that one has to go and buy a drone for 5 lakh, 7 lakh rupees. No, you can lease it and hire it for 300 rupees an hour. Yeah, that's easily affordable, and it is logistically operable also. So I think my endeavor, or the state government, because agriculture is a state subject, center can only do so much. Actually, the implementation should happen at the Gram Panchayat level, right? And then the Tehsil level, Zilla level, then the district level, then the state level, then the center. So therefore, I think implementation of such policies to arrest rural-urban migration should happen, and that can only happen if somehow leveraging data, technology, policy, etc., including affordable, accessible credit, if you can ensure that out of 365 days, if you can provide meaningful employment to the young youth of India, rural India, 300 out of 365 days, I believe that they will stop migrating to urban areas for 10,000 rupees, 15,000 rupees a month for gig job economy. Right? So that's my response.
Announcement for the people in rural areas. With that, health check.
Financial inclusion, and so credit is only a small part of financial inclusion. Right? The larger part also is their ability to access a bank account. Now we all know that there was this massive campaign with the government of India where we opened the Jan Dhan bank accounts. But if you look at the data, I don't need to tell this, but the amount of money which is actually transacted in these accounts is abysmally low. And the reason for that is there is this thing called CICO, CICO, and it stands for cash in and cash out. So if you have a bank account where you can't cash in and cash out at will, it's as good as not having an account.
It will remain empty.
It will remain. So I think one of the opportunities I think we have as a country is that every post office in India has now become a bank.
True.
And it's called the India Post Payments Bank. So I think one of the things which you really look at is to see if we could make this post office van, which is right there in the community at the last mile, can we make it more accessible for the communities? And then on top of that, see if we could, start providing credit. Now, so Ramdi is one of the options, but tomorrow, thanks to OCEN, Open Credit Enablement Network, and Account Aggregator, we'll be able to lend money to even communities who don't have any credit score, because now we will have access to their cash flow data in their bank accounts. So I think that's that's the way forward as a country, because we need to really solve this problem at population scale. And I think that's where I think not only Ramdi would be able to play a role, also the other banks in India, they would also now be able to underwrite using data.
Using data that.
Yeah, even if somebody's never borrowed before, they would now be able to borrow just with their cash flow data.
A follow-up question to that. How do you see that playing around in your thesis? Is it really going to be helping? Do you think some of your craftsmen who were there, whom you worked with earlier, would actually benefit from this ONDC phenomenon, or is this just a hype?
No, I think it's too early to really, comment on that, because it needs to get seeded as we speak, because
It has to percolate, right?
yeah, it's essentially a network effect. So if everybody, gets onto the platform, and also it also comes down to user experience, right? So if my experience is not good, then I will not go back to a ONDC marketplace.
Branded as mystore.in, potentially is a game changer. Like Ram, it's a bit early in the day. We had to create awareness, then adoption, but I think it's going to give a run to Amazon.in. I can see it in next 2 years. I'll draw an analogy. It is akin to what UPA was 3 years back. Nobody thought that it would become so big, so huge.
That we don't need Visa or MasterCard anymore.
ONDC is an e-commerce platform which has payment solution embedded in it.
Yeah.
It is Amazon.in by Government of India. So, it can get as big as you can imagine, provided this awareness, adoption, etc. etc.
I'll just share something on this. In this race, if you call it a race, we are far ahead of the developed world, because my daughter is in Germany and she said, Dad, no one takes a card over there. You have to carry cash around. If you're not carrying cash, you hide it, because you can't do anything. Okay. And so coming back to this thing, I think we were hearing from our August panelist in the previous one, who's from Princeton University. He said that Indians by default have a lot of inherent recycling, repurposing. Even in our farming practices, earlier if you see, we've been using a lot of organic kind of stuff. We've used cow manure and all that kind of thing for ages. Do you think some of these practices have to be brought back? And is that happening? Should that be happening, or how do we go to those kind of things? And move from things like allopathy to Ayurvedic things, even for the cattle or for this kind of thing.
So I can say there's no textbookish answer, there is no real world answer. The way I would look at it, Manish, is one has to be practical and pragmatic. When I say pragmatic, 90% of our farmers are smallholders, i.e. 2 acres, 3 acres. We cannot preach to the smallholder that, hey, look, put a gun, head or her head literally, and say, switch on from inorganic to organic. It's tough. On the ground it's tough. Unless you provide a system of incentives and a strong policy framework. But it's not a question of whether we need it or not. I will look at it from 2 prisms, 2 lenses. One is the producer cultivator, the other is consumer. We, right? Both need organic inputs and organic outputs. When I say inputs, biologicals, growth promoters, biopesticides, biofertilizers, etc., etc. At the same time, the consumers today are willing to pay, at least I know one segment, which is 1 crore out of 150 crores, has the wherewithal, has the disposable income to pay 2x for organic products. I would, again, I don't want to get into a controversial subject. I know how organic is organic. All I know is this is less poisonous than that, right? That's what it is. So it's not a question whether we both as a consumer we need a choice, and as a farmer I need to do because it's for the sake of sustainability. At the end of the day, we have already poisoned our groundwater aquifers. We have already poisoned our soil. So therefore, somewhere we have to do something for the next generations to come. We have to save the planet. So there is some element of inevitability, but it's not going to happen like a switch. If not, we'll become like Sri Lanka. What happened 6 months back, let's not forget. Human memory is short. It takes 2 to 3 years to switch a minimum from non-chemical to chemical to non-chemical farming. It's not easy. So, so there are challenges. But once you do that, productivity improves, the quality of the produce improves, everybody is happy, the farm. But the key thing is market access also. How do you provide large-scale market access to small farmers who are switching to organic? And who's going to compensate 2.5 to 3 years of income loss? They're in no position to take that loss. So these are some very vexed issues, but yet there are solutions. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think social enterprise based in Bangalore called Akshay Kalpa is in India's first organic milk supply chain now. It's hard, right, to build a value chain which is organic and sustainable for the communities.
Exactly.
It's hard, right? So Shashi was the founder. He spent 4 years to figure out what the fodder should be. Right? So because a lot of trials, a lot of experiments, and then he figured out, he did Azola and so many other combinations, and then finally figured out that the local, whatever was available, that was the best. But it had to be treated in a certain way. The composition was very important and all of that. And now Akshay Kalpa is India's leading, organic dairy company. And I think what we've done to enable that is provide them credit. And even though Shashi could have set up a corporate farm, he chose to do, just the opposite. He actually chose deliberately to work with small and marginal farmers and create a beautiful design. I think sometimes we underestimate the power of design. And so he's got this beautiful design. It's a design for a farm, a dairy farm, which can be run by a husband and wife team. So this is a couple, and they can run a farm which can accommodate 25 cows. So they can start with 1 cow, and as this...
And it is modular.
Yeah, it's just modular.
Okay, and without getting all those, say your antibiotics and all those.
Absolutely not. And it's what you get is, a great value for your product and a great health, and it's also, it's great for the environment. So I think it's a beautiful model.
Would love introductions.
Yeah. So just want to share that with you as an example. And also they are able to create a biogas around with them because they get around cow dung, create slurry. It creates a great sustainable fertilizer for the farm, and so it's fantastic.
Awesome. So thanks so much for this very interesting kind of thing. Like we've invested in say one venture which does a similar thing on the farmer side. But then, so like as you rightly said, so like someone said, a village goes into making a child grow. On the flip side, a lot of us who have been who come from that village, are required to make hundreds of villages grow. And if we all don't contribute to it, then we are not there. And I'm like, you need some folks who take that step, that, okay, I have an offer from Tokyo, from Seoul, or from, say, Milan or somewhere, but I'll go back to my village and maybe make things better. Coming to the last point, and we are still in the first month, New Year's. Any resolutions or anything that you set out to do?
I thought the question was more to do with, are we going to take some concrete steps in sustainability? I thought that was the question.
Yeah,
Or from that. Yeah. So I think I would like to answer that point. So to Ram's point, I have designed an intervention program with the Union Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, along with a non-for-profit entity called as the Nudge, based on Bangalore, where we'll be working and designing and executing programs for the next 18 months to make the lives of Safai Karmacharis better using existing schemes and etc. So that's my, you can call it new organization or design.
Great.
So what we're doing is we're experimenting with several, there are two projects which I'm very personally passionate about. One is to see if we could provide credit to migrant workers who are very, vulnerable when it comes to accessing credit. So that's something which we're trying to do in this new year, and also very excited about setting up this project, which is truly. Yeah, we're also looking at setting up sustainable community tourism projects in Gujarat and in the Northeast, which would allow the community members to host and give a great alternative to traditional accommodation options they may have.
Awesome. So I think with that, time is up. I see that loud and clear and blood red. Okay. But thank you so much for the insightful things, and look forward to your initiatives growing by leaps and bounds, and happy to help wherever possible. Thank you so much for the patient hearing.
Thank you so much. Give credit to people as and when they need. That's a great point. I still remember I was in Bombay on a plant which was placed on top of a drain and which had a plastic sheet as a roof. So imagine how bad that would be. So yes, there's Dr. Ravi's point of our future being in our ability to retain people in our rural bases seems to be the key. The business leaders and at the same time with students or job seekers. Business leaders say we don't find great talent. And that's a huge gap that we talk. Technology to ensure that this gap is filled is one of in front of us. Seems to be swelling up. On the other side, we also come across business gap that we have to be talking about. So this panel that we have, the moderator previously served as the senior director of business. And then we also have Mr. Arjun Puri, Dean Admissions, Aga Khan Academy, stage, P.N. Nayak, CEO Deshpande Skilling. Mr. Nayak is the CEO and Managing Trustee of Deshpande Skilling. Started one all of them, India. We got it at 33. Love to have you, sir. Please.
Of reshaping the world, right? It actually is reshaping the world, right? And we're going to talk about how the technological advancements, right? And for the technological advancements that we are currently seeing here. And we have a wonderful and expert panel here to dive deeper into this and to dissect the challenges and opportunities that we have and that they have encountered, which can, add great value to this discussion. So thank you all for joining us. And then I think we should get started. But before we get there, I would request you all to spend maybe a minute and a half each to talk about the work that you do, so that we have more context to the discussion that we're going to have here, right? So, Aditi, Arjun, let's start.
Sure, thanks, Rohit. Thank you everyone for network. A lot of you might be aware of the work KKTN does globally and in India. I work at the Aga Khan Academy in Hyderabad, but also sort of run strategy for our academies globally. We're in about, we run 200 schools in several countries around the world. And my particular interest in joining AKTN's workforce in India was primarily to run a program which focuses on recruitment of students from rural settings. But prior to joining AKTN, I've been in education for about 12 years. Was part of the team that set up Jindal University, and before that I was an investment banker, so I spent about 6 years living in London with Merrill Lynch. So that was a past life, so we won't go into the investment banking side, but there's a lot of learnings that I'd love to share today with everyone.
Thank you. Shafi, would you?
That was our objective. And we found that the cost of doing hard skills training was very prohibitively high. And this is something that we can change with intervention of technology. And the moment we start talking about using technology in vocational training, the feeling is that technology is costly and it is only going to increase cost and not decrease cost. This is true only if we try and bring in tech that is built in the Western world. If we do it here, it may not cost so much. The other challenge when we use technology is that technology over-promises in most cases. We have seen this happen with EdTech. And so just having technology is not sufficient. It should deliver measurable value at the shop floor or at the employment level. So when we made tech to be able to work here in India, we were conscious of challenges with internet connectivity. We were conscious of problems with power access. The reason why I brought the bag to the stage is that the simulator is only this much. It's easy to carry it around. You don't have to go to a large training center. You can take it to anywhere where the students have access to. And it also creates its own network, and you can train, and then the data gets stored locally. Whenever you take the laptop to a place which has internet, it syncs to a central server. And you can see that many times I get asked the question, oh, this is too high-tech for rural. And it is not so, because as you can see in the pictures, in tier 3, tier 4 towns in Tamil Nadu, Nippon Paint has used this to upskill the painters who buy their paint. And you can see that even rural as well as women have taken to this very easily. So yesterday in the immersion when we went to the school, the kids in Madanapalli spoke very beautiful English very confidently. So there is nothing that segregates an urban person from a rural person. You give it to them, they will do it really well. So it's only a question of taking it to them. And what we built globally here in India is now used very well in the US. So on the left you see a picture of a school kid in California using my simulator. We have our simulators being used in Alaska. I never thought something we built in Chennai would get used in Alaska of all places. And last, I want to say that anything that we build for developing world need not be cheap or need not be compromising on quality. So these are some of the installations that we have in various parts of the country. It is, I can tell you, it is at par with the best in the world. Thank you.
I head Deshpande Skilling. Just to introduce myself, I come with about 30 years in the corporate world and then moved to the development sector. So the role that I am in currently, we engage with colleges, especially in tier 3 and rural places. We have enrolled about 4,500 kids every year, and we spend about 400 hours skilling them very specifically to what is required by employer company. We have specific sectors that we work with, and the good part is if it's done scientifically, if it is done involving the stakeholders, if it is done with the demand in mind, we are able to do about 95% placement. So of all these kids who come and join, most of them from rural backgrounds, we are able to place a good 95% of them into good jobs, so into organized sector jobs. But we are actually going for a low-hanging fruit. We are working with kids who have, I won't call them kids, they are adults, many of them sitting here today. They have completed formal education. They have done 10 plus 2 plus 3, hail from rural background, because of which the access to jobs and awareness of what are the job opportunities is not too great among this community. So Deshpande is telling we are actually trying to bridge that gap and help them go and grab that opportunity. So yeah, very glad to be part of this panel, and we have been, okay, like another difference is that we have been largely using brick and mortar methods to do all of this, and it's great to be sitting with somebody who's talking of technology to be doing all of this. I think there's scope for us to do more by using technology, and glad to be part of this panel.
Damini, I'm the co-founder of Remake Scholars. So I started this venture in 2015. It was after I got a 100% scholarship for my masters in the UK. So I came back to India and started a platform which we call it Scholarship Search Engine. So we started curating information from various trusts, foundations, government bodies, everything at one single place for students to find it easily. Though we started with scholarships, as of now we help students with all kinds of financing. So extending from scholarships even to education loans, which in India unfortunately is not very easy to get, as I think the person from Rangde also spoke. So so especially education loans, which is something banks never wanted to do until unless you have your uncle in bank or your chacha in bank. So we are trying to bring that to a common ground for everyone. You know, we get a lot of applications even from rural part of the country where a lot of aspirational India is, even helping them get that credit. Of course, in partly from scholarship, or if they are not able to get 100% scholarship, helping them get finance through other forms of loans is what we do at Remake Scholars, which is as of now India's largest education finance platform.
Fantastic, like rural skilling, technological advancements to business. So thank you for joining us. A little bit about myself. I work for Talent Sprint, which is in the business of bringing transformational learning programs for professionals like our young population sitting in the back rows there, and working professionals on deep technology. So I'll bring in some more context as we go about discussing this. So let's get started. I mean, remember that episode from Black Mirror where we found robots stealing jobs of all human beings, right? Of everyone. Right? Don't worry, we're not there yet, but certainly things are changing, right? The way workforce has to, the future workforce is changing, and the rural communities have to be ready for that. And imagine a situation where the rural communities and the rural population not just survives but thrives in this phase of technological revolution, right? It certainly can happen, provided we bridge the skill gap, right? And we bring them the opportunities that they are otherwise deprived of. So I would like to start off with Arjun, who's been working at the grassroots level, helping the disadvantaged rural communities, right? And the kind of work that you're doing at school education, right? How do you do this? What kind of tailored programs do you bring about for the rural population?
Thanks, Red. I think first and foremost, I think the interest in rural India for me personally started when I moved back in 2013 and spent a year and a half living in villages with ITCZ Chopal. I mean, I was hearing earlier about how do you sort of eliminate the middleman, and you were talking about handicrafts and the prices that a sort of textile designer would get from a rural environment would be 1/10 of what the price in the urban setting would be. Similarly, ITCZ Chopal has created a model. It wanted to eliminate the middleman. So on weekends, I used to spend time teaching children in government schools across the states I lived in. You have to understand, I grew up in Calcutta, so then to suddenly live in villages, to try and convince farmers to send children to school. The midday meal was then sort of just about kicking off. So it was a very interesting period for me to understand that what lacks in sort of the rural space of opportunity, whether it comes down to the teaching, if it comes down to, you look at absenteeism in educators, that's another challenge. So one of the things that we do as part of the Aga Khan academies, of which now we've got 4 across the world, there's a large impetus that's sort of given to understand that a country that you live in, the fabric of that country needs to be represented in your classroom. We are going further and further and further away from that by creating a sense of elitism, privilege. Even going to a good school or a good university now is a privilege, right? So then how do you create opportunity? How do you tell someone that you and somebody else of your age who might have studied the same subjects has the same opportunity to get hired at a global firm? The truth is, we're far away from creating equal play. So my primary reason for joining the Aga Khan Development Network was to see how we conduct talent hunts. So for instance, we're spending more and more time in the Northeast. We went to Meghalaya, now we would work with Arunachal Pradesh. We work within Telangana with the tribal welfare, social welfare, Eklavya model residential schools. Similarly, we're going to try and do this in Ladakh. The idea is, when you can build a school where more than 50% children who are studying at IB, International Baccalaureate Curriculum, the fees are crazy, okay? Now, in that environment, if more than 50% children are earning a scholarship to attend that school, imagine what that classroom looks like. So for me, language is taken out of the equation. So when we conduct any of our potential-driven scholarship assessment, we conduct it in the local language. So when we did this in Meghalaya, it was done in Khasi. When we do this in Bengal, it will be Bangla. So similarly, when we did it in Telugu here. And a lot of the way to identify potential, we work with the work of a great professor called John Monroe, who sort of designed this for us, where to understand potential, you have to allow children the time for their minds to function in front of you. So a lot of things that you might do in IIMs is the group discussion. Similarly, you break it down for what a 6th grader might want to talk about. So there's a lot of work that goes into this, there's a lot of science, there's a lot of research, but I'm proud to say that, whenever we get invited to speak on global platforms, wherever in the world we go, everyone stands up in the end and claps when they see videos of kids coming from villages. We've just got 4 kids joining us from the ruralest parts of Adilabad forests, who've now joined the academy on a 1 crore scholarship each, right? So people are always clapping and humming about how wonderful this is, but no other schools are doing it. So how do you involve philanthropy in the conversation? So tech is one thing. I'm really glad that Nayak Sahab spoke about the brick and mortars, because you can't do either or. It's a balance. You can't move completely to tech. So I think a lot of what we want to do continually is to create an environment which is truly representative of what this country is about. That representation in a classroom. You have the topmost industrialist child sitting next to a child whose father's a fruit seller, mother's a maid. That's the classroom we're building. And I'm so proud. And there are times people who come and say, we don't want our kids to go here. That's also the reality of India. So when you talk about skills, I think it's so important to understand the value system. And I think the gentleman from Princeton spoke about this. We have to have a mind shift to write, if you want to go abroad on full scholarship, that journey starts in junior school. It can't be when she's 21 years old, suddenly she's a genius. So rural India is the future. So if more and more schools will invest in rural India, all these people sitting in the back will aspire to go to great universities and then come back to where they belong. That is the biggest shift that can happen there. And education plays the biggest role.
Absolutely, rural India is the future. And what could be when it comes to demographics, that you can have inside the classroom. It will be great if you can also maybe spend a few seconds talking about the impact that this program has had. Like we've talked about what you're trying to do, right? You're bringing up people from, various districts in different parts of the country, right? But where do they end up after the schooling is done?
Thanks, Rohit. Just to give you a quick example. So, for instance, when we go and do this in villages across India, we identify states, we also work in conflict zones around the world. I have the great privilege of working with students from Syria, from Afghanistan, who live on campus. We just welcome these kids. And a lot of these kids can't even write a sentence in English properly up until when they enter grade 7. Because like I said, these assessments, conversations and local languages, these children have gone on to Brown, Georgetown, Northwestern, Ashoka University on full funding. So when you talk about the impact of education, it comes to creating an equal level playing field and opportunity. Now for us, we have, at all points in time, we recruit 10 children every year, which is an annual budget of 10 crores for us. But like I said, if this sort of can spread across the board, you'll have more and more people doing this. And one final point, when we interview the kids, especially from India, in their final rounds, you ask them, what do you want to do in life? You come into a great program, 90% of them will say IS officers, The others will say, I want to be a doctor or a lawyer. So, the beauty in this, they're thinking about how can they come back. So that's the beauty and the impact of working in an organization that allows you to constantly work with such incredible young minds.
Great, great. I would like to move to Damni next. You've talked about We Make Scholars and the way you have helped students get scholarships and bring out the right information and transparent information that they need to progress further in their higher education. What do you think is the role of various stakeholders like the government, the NGOs, right, the private education institutions or education institutions in general to bring together a very robust ecosystem, skilling ecosystem for the rural economy, for the rural areas? What's your take on that?
See, the stakeholders, everyone has their role to play. Everyone can change the ecosystem overall to make it more skilled workforce, which I think IMG probably will be the better person to talk about. See, these stakeholders at all levels, before that I would come to the student, someone who has to get skilled, rather than talking about the people who have to skill this student, right? So I believe the intent is a very important factor. The student should be incented enough so that, if the opportunities are there, if there is a center of skilling. I'll share one example with you that there are a lot of ITI centers which are, skilling centers run by government or let's say TASK in Telangana. So these people who are enrolling for those, centers, many of them are not even regular to those centers or to those training sessions. That just shows the intent of, the person, when you're getting an opportunity to go to a center and get yourself trained, you're not inclined to do that. And I believe that also comes from, when we are talking about rural skilling here, that also comes from that people probably don't see role models around, or they see less of a role models around. I think yesterday at the time we were talking about that, there should be more entrepreneurs. And I think when more of those, probably the role models will come in front of them, they would want to see how to be there. But as of now I feel that, people are, not everyone, of course there are people, there are stars, who come out from a group of let's say 50 people. There are people who want to do different, who want to, move forward in their life and get themselves trained, go to the upper, ladder or take the next step. Again, another example I'll share with you. So I come from a very small place, not a village though, but I grew up in Jammu, which again, the lack of awareness and you see people with lack of intent also. You tell them that, we have to be graduate. People say, hey, because they have been seeing people doing work or using methods of earning which doesn't require education, so they don't see that much value in education also. I have seen people around me who didn't want to go beyond 10th standard or 12th standard because they just didn't see value in getting themselves more equipped or more educated. So another example comes from, when I was a kid, probably in 5th, 6th class or something. So my father is a contractor, so government contractor to construction. So he would always have these, construction workers and laborers coming from, different places like Jhansi and, other places in Madhya Pradesh and all, who are in Jammu doing the construction work. So they would have their kids whom they will not enroll in schools also. Right, so what we would do is, my mother would enroll them in a school nearby, saying that, I would pay the fees, but nothing to them, but to the school I will pay and let them, go to the school. And then sometimes I would start taking the tuition classes for them. I'll just bring these two kids, and I'm very excited to, teach them and handle them, make them write ABC, whatever I could do, as a 5th or 6th class student. And then, these kids, they would just not turn up next day. I mean, I'll scold them, sometimes I'll slap them that, why you're not studying and why you're not writing this. And then they would not turn up next day. So I'm like, if I am in that place and I have to, look up to someone and I want to move forward, I would do anything to, whether it's scoldings or whether it's anything I want to learn. So I think the intent of the student, especially in rural India or the part of the country where the awareness is lacking or the role models is lacking, I think it becomes difficult to motivate those people that it's important and this is something you should do and this is something you should enroll for. is one thing. So the main stakeholder, which is the person who is going to get skilled, has to have that inclination to get skilled. The second thing which I want to talk about is, of course, the educators, or when we asked the organizer that who's the audience, they said there are a lot of college principals also. So I don't know how many are there in the crowd. But then to you, I want to say that, so many times we are making a degree a way to just get a certificate rather than, making people equipped with skills. So to give you an example, let's say, right from my experience as an entrepreneur who recruits a lot from Hyderabad or the nearby towns like Nizamabad or Suryapet or other places, I've seen, I see that 90% of the students, like we generally recruit fresh graduates like who completed like their BBA or BComs or other degrees in Telangana. So many of them do not have any internship experience also. So when we ask them that, what were you doing after your second year break, or what were you doing after your first year break? Most of them would answer, oh, I was at my nanny's place, or I was, spending time with some relatives, I was, doing something. People should have that, the colleges should probably tell students that, this is important, this is something you have to do. Again, the last semester of the, college, the sixth semester, there are a lot of colleges who allow students that, go out and do an internship and come back. But there are colleges who are like, no, attendance is mandatory. And we, end up talking to placement coordinators saying that, they have been doing this for, 5 semesters already. They are still not workforce ready. Let them work in in an office and see how exactly and how should they be ready and what skills they should acquire. And when these people are in office for like 6 months, after that when they are going back or graduating, they have so much better revenues than their other classmates. So if there are principals in the crowd, I want to tell them that the attendance issue, please send your students outside of the classroom and let them gain real level skills. Whether you are in Nizamabad in some degree college or whether you are in Hyderabad in some degree college, people have to go out to learn those real life skills. That's I think another thing I want to talk about.
Great. But I think things are changing now. We've seen many colleges opening up for allow.
It is good. Otherwise, technology for the sake of it is not going to be useful. And when it comes to the scope of hard skills, one of the things that I would like to share is that there are 2 reasons why any person chooses a career. One is the money part, one is the social status part. The money part of hard skills is now becoming more clear. Like a welder can start at 15,000 rupees, but if he goes to weld on a nuclear power plant, he can make 4 lakh rupees a month. That career progression not many people are aware of. And these are areas where technology can play a major role by eliminating the cost of delivering the training, and as well as giving you more data on what you did right, what you did wrong, measure it in a very unbiased way. Secondly, the social status. That's where I think we as a society will have to change a bit. Today, even though a plumber or a welder may make more money than, let's say, a software engineer, the social status doesn't come. Whether it is, are you being treated better by the people around you, or in India it becomes very important, in the marriage market do you find preference. So all of these factors matter. So coming to technology, I think the global technological ecosystem has evolved in the last 5 years very much with this AR, VR, everything becoming more accessible, the prices of the devices coming down, and more developers building tools on that. So one thing, what you said is, it has to be a mix of brick and mortar. So the classroom could be a fixed hub, and you could have these moving around in spokes. And one challenge in any hard skill training center is that you find student mobilization a big challenge. You build the state-of-art training centers, but people don't come in. That's why you go around showing this, and then get the kids interested by showcasing that they have something high-tech to work on. And the first few times when we took these real welders to get them upskilled, they were like, we are so thankful, nobody ever thought of us before in any kind of technological intervention. We never got to touch any high-tech device. So there are a lot of things that tech can change, it can democratize, and I think we have quite a few interesting days ahead with tech becoming affordable and more focus coming to places like India where there is a lot of opportunity. One thing that prompted me to start Skillberry is also that the T3 of Delhi Airport as well as the Delhi Metro. The Delhi Metro was constructed by the tunnel boring operators from Peru, and T3 was built using Chinese labor. So in a country of 1.4 billion, and we have 70% of the population in the productive age group, why should we bring people from outside? So there's a huge opportunity, and tech could be an enabler for that. Thank you.
I have a question for you. Just if I may. When you're talking about how much is a good XY earned, we're not very skilled as people. So when IKEA came to India, we were one of the first countries that outsourced how to build IKEA furniture. Okay. So how does tech bridge the gap in terms of maybe if we can go to tier 2, tier 3 and further? At what age should these kind of skill sets start being discussed? Because the conversations that one has is, you're not proudly saying you're a welder or a plumber, but if you are an engineer or a lawyer or a teacher, it's great. So that value conversation comes in, but where does tech play a part in this, and at what age?
So let me bring a school STEM angle also to this. So we, as a site, we built some virtual reality app which teaches kids about gravity in high school, in 7th or 8th standard, by letting them play basketball on Earth, on Moon and on Mars. So you can make kids play basketball in the real world without any tech, but you can't make them play basketball on the Moon or Mars. So this virtual reality technology is making them do some activity which is otherwise impossible to do or costly to do. I would say it should start somewhere in 5th or 6th standard, but different things will have different age groups to start with.
And just to add a bit more to that, about 100 girl students who are in 6th, 7th and 8th grades, right? And these students, they're coming from very, very deprived backgrounds, right? I mean, 70% of them hadn't touched a computer before this intervention happened to them. So what we really did is over the 3-week summer boot camp with these 100 middle school girls is gave them a program called C-STEM, which is computational STEM, where the idea was to teach them concepts on physics and math, right? Simple concepts of math and physics using computational thinking, right? So we all know that visualization is a very important aspect of learning, right? You have to visualize things when you're learning to sort of cement that understanding. And how do you know if they are visualizing it in the right way or not? So we brought this platform where, let's say if you're talking about a simple balance beam, right? How do you know if I put a 2 kg weight on one side and 3 kg on the other side, how would it just go up and down? So we had the simulator, virtual simulator where they could just play around with weights on both sides and see how the input changes the output. So I think technology at various levels, starting at very early school education, can definitely make a huge, huge impact. Moving on to Naikji, you've talked about how we can impact the rural population and communities through various technological interventions and otherwise. You have been on the other side of the table, right? I mean, in addition to what you're doing now, you're very passionate about people and talent development, but you've spent a good 2 decades of your career at an IT company hiring.
Hire for attitude.
Hire for attitude.
Yeah, so I think that's something which students, they need to be talked about this, which is they can't think of work by watching some movie and trying to dream of work is going to be like it's in a movie. And the second big thing, at least when we talk of hiring freshers, actually when I went to college to hire freshers, it didn't matter what the students studied in college, whether he did civil engineering or mechanical engineering or commerce or arts. Yeah, there are roles which are technical and non-technical roles. So if I had to hire for a technical role, I'd obviously hire a person who's trained for engineering. But then if I had to, then I would put anybody from any branch. So the key thing is, because the job roles require them to be doing something which is not taught in college. So the absolute key thing, if I were to just put it in one line, would be, are they trainable for this role? So to me, what they studied in college, how they performed in college, is a good indicator of are they trainable or not. And when I look at their marks, it is only indicating to me that this person can learn. But yeah, unfortunately today marks are not a great indicator for that, which is why companies use a whole lot of other tools to see if the person has understood what he said in college. Yeah, so people use marks less today, let me be honest. So companies don't look at marks much. They use other tools, they use AMCAT and so many tools to actually assess. But then finally I think the key thing that companies would hire for is are they trainable? Especially the organized sector ones, companies where they invest a good 2, 3, 4 months into training them. They run a very hard induction program for them. So the only key thing which my message to all the students here is they need to demonstrate that they can learn. And for that their communication skill, their ability to use computers, these become the key aspects of demonstrating their learning ability.
So learnability or learning to learn is a very important skill, the most important skill. And, if you can hire for attitude, that sort of takes care of a large part of it. I think one, last point, if one of you can touch upon, at all levels, school education, higher education, with the kind of demographic that we have in our country and the large population denominator, how do we avoid rat race at every level? Like, are we really imparting skills that are needed for making them get a good career, or are we just helping them get ready for a rat race at a future date?
Let me share some numbers here. Nationally, there are about 404.5 crore students enrolled for higher education. That's in colleges and universities. And this is just about 30% of the adult population of age 18 to about 25. So it's just 30%. So there's about 1 crore students who graduate from these BA, BCom, engineering, medicine and all of that. And 65% of that are in rural. So when we talk of all this demographic dividend and all that, unless we can utilize the 65% well, they're going to lose out. It's going to be a liability. So therefore I think it's a big responsibility on the community, all of us, governments, NGOs, even corporates. Unfortunately, in India, the industry and education relationship has not been great. The universities and industry don't collaborate too well. I think that's the key, and NGOs like this can step in and do part of it, but it's the size of the challenge is huge. But we should also look at it as an opportunity. Imagine 65% of a crore, which is 65 lakh students, graduate from rural parts of India every year. And if they can be leveraged well, we can actually change the scene of rural.
We're on top of the hour, but one last point from
Just to add on, I think the rat race starts from pre-primary now. It's not university. I mean, you have children in wait lists across schools. So again, it comes out of privilege and who do you know to get in. I can speak from experience, but I'm just telling you that, the rat race is now far beyond watching 3 Idiots and saying, what does it mean to go to IIT? Now it is across the board, and there's so much importance now more than ever for every stakeholder to take ownership. I think whether it's internships doesn't mean photocopying. Going to a corporate for any kind of work experience should then plan out whether that person wants a career in that job or not, right? So everyone has to step up, schools, universities, corporates, NGOs, government. If we can, then the 65% will be solved in the next 65 years, but it will.
Great. All right, I think we've been confident that time is up. So thank you for the wonderful discussion here, and I'm sure the audience will enjoy this.
So thank you so much. Lovely conversation. Conversation, they interviewed on how do we create at Ola, and those were the days when Ola was giving a lot of money to its drivers. And he asked my friend who was a software employee, "Tu kitna banata hai?" Right? So I think the dignity comes with the ability to earn more. So I think that's the way to go forward. Lovely conversation there as well. Discussion is when we want to the money of the students. I think maybe the money has to go to the teachers and the educators, because they are the ones who create the real value for them. So all the power to ones who are empowering the educators, and I know Calvin students are doing a great job there. Perfect. Thank you so much, Arjun. We saw the Tara in your hand, and it's so beautiful. Tara looks small from the distance to run longer. Let me also tell you, these panel discussions are not pure at all. The solutions don't happen on stage. These are triggers, and we run with those and maybe find solutions for all of us. Lovely. Now it's time to see somebody who has lived that change. Somebody who walked into a leadership program in order to learn skills less than a decade back. And yesterday when I was having a conversation with him, he proudly said, I am able to employ 190 people. I'm not talking single digits, I'm not talking 2 digits, I'm not talking 3, I'm talking 4 digits. I just need not introduce this person anymore. Please put your hands together as I invite on stage. They proudly employ more than 1,500, close to 1,900 people. Dr. Stage is all yours.
Check. I'm from a small, my background is from, I'm from a small village in Nizamabad. I came from a small village in Nizamabad. So, I'm the owner and the CEO of Chitrapuri Film Festival. So, sounds looks like a film festival, everyone knows that a film festival. So, I belong to entertainment field. So, completely I'm into entertainment field, and recently, 1.5 years ago, we used to be doing a tech field also. So, basically, introduction from myself about my company. So we are into a completely movie business, like a pre-production, post-production, and production. And we do complete movie business. Like we sell, we take the movies and we sell the movies to OTT platforms and the satellite platforms, and we make movies too. So main to start Chitrapuri Film Festival, being a lead student, when Kakatiya Sandbox started in Nizamabad. Yes, we used to join from our college. We joined in the lead program, lead acceleration program, and it takes many challenges. As a lead student, our journey was started with a lead student with Kakatiya Sandbox, and after that 6 years, after establishment of the Kakatiya Sandbox, after 60 years, we started our career in 2016 as Chitrapuri Film Festival. So we are into 5 different parts, like Chitrapuri Film Festival, Avani Entertainments, Bulithera Entertainments, and Chitrapuri International School of Film Technologies, and Chitrapuri Studios. So basically we work like Chitrapuri Film Festival is completely giving an awards to all the filmmakers, and Avani Entertainments is completely works for small scale, like TV channels. We work for, you all see the serials like Ma TV, Zee Telugu, and Colors, Star Plus, and Wisdom. So we make production, post-production for all these channels. And Avani Entertainments and Bulithera Entertainments, we sell movies from this sector. We sell the movies to OTT platforms, and we sell we do satellite business from Bulithera Entertainments, and we training some students in film technologies like editing, scriptwriting, animation, photography, and direction, and acting, anchoring, and news presenters. We are training these students from international standards, as well as by soon, 1.5 years after coming next year, we would like to launch Chitrapuri Film Studio in Nizamabad in 25 acres. So completely we are working on AI. So completely we are working on AI and VR. We would like to, we are working on image regeneration. So we are trying to create one new image in AI, and we would like to make it, we are sending it into animation, 3D animation. We are giving it a live in 3D animation, and after that we bring it into a VR, virtual reality. So it would be a first center in India. If it is success, it would be a first center in India for artificial intelligence and virtual reality. So we are set-top boxes and everything is going to be manufactured in Nizamabad by soon. Within 1 year, we're going to start. Already we collected a land in 25 acres in Dichpalli. We already collected from the government land.
25 acres. So by soon we are going to construct a VRAI studio in Nizamabad in Bichpalli. By soon we are, I think in 2025, next January is going to be start. So completely we are into an entertainment field, and last from 1.5 year we started tech, like in tea hubs in Hyderabad and Bangalore. We have a little small business. So we noticed that we have a we have a lot of, we have created 2 world records. The world record is mentioned as an India's, we are holding like 5 lakhs unreleased films. We are holding like 5 lakhs unreleased films, which is really needed for Amazon Prime, like Netflix and some other platforms. But we are not ready to sell our content to any other platforms. So that we're trying to develop our own platform, OTT platform. So by soon it is also coming soon, OTT platform from Chitrapuri. To we have a 5 lakhs, whatever the 5 lakhs content is here. We are going to put in our OTT platform, and it's going to be like free of cost. Main OTT platform and studio, it's going to come for next year from our Chitrapuri Film Festival. Right present, we generated like 1900 employments in all over India. Like we got an award as India's biggest changing company. So I think you all using Amazon Prime, Netflix, you are trying I think you watch movies in Prime and Amazon. So have you been checked any time how it's going to work? So you will take a subscription for 100 rupees for 1 month, or maybe 3 months for 600 rupees, for 1 month for 1000 rupees. You will take a subscription for this OTT Netflix. So have you noticed that in Play Store, go and check in the Play Store, have you noticed how many downloads are there? Have you checked any time, how many downloads and how the income is going to generate for those big companies? What will be, I think 38 OTT platforms were there here, 38 OTT platforms. So how they generate? So if I want to make a movie that it costs to 1 CR, if I start a movie in a low budget, it takes to 1 CR to 5 CR minimum. So if I sell that movie to OTT platform, they will pay the 50% or maybe 70% from the production. So after selling to OTT, so how the OTT will generate? If I sell the 1 crore movie for 50 lakhs for OTT, if OTT buy my movie for 50 lakhs, then how the OTT will generate that 50 lakhs? From your subscription. So 500 million, like you can check that Amazon Prime, it has 500 million downloads. And what if you take for 1 month subscription, and what will be the cost for 500 million OTT memberships? So the point was raised from our mind. So that's what when Amazon asked me to give a data from us, like we are already said that we have a world record that we are holding 5 lakhs unreleased films data. We have a 5 lakhs unreleased film data all in 46 languages from across 103 countries. So we don't want, they asked me to sell the complete movies to data to them, but we are not ready to give all the data to them. So just we are ready, we planned that we would like to build our own OTT. So at the same time, the idea to build our own OTT platform. So we started, why should we take help from other IT sources? So why don't we build our own tech field? So we realized that we need to take our own step to start in a tech field. We started tech field before 1.5 years, EFFI Infotech. So it's already in Nizamabad and some other Hyderabad and Bangalore also. We are training students and some unemployed employees, and we are training them in all artificial intelligences and full stack developers and front and back end technical field. So we are making them to do our works like OTT platforms and websites and other ideas. So whatever the ideas they get and we are working on that. So Chitrapuri is India's biggest changing company, that wherever you go in India, you can find a Chitrapuri Film Festival person who is working in entertainment field. We created a 1900 employments in all over India.
So we are India's biggest chain link company, and by soon we are going to create a Guinness World Record with 103 countries who is participating in February 24th of 2024. February 24, 2024, we are creating a Guinness World Record with 103 countries. Already we met 3 CMs, like Goa CM is going to come for the event, Telangana CM and Gujarat CM. So 5 CMs are going to attend for the event that 103 countries were participating in. We got a highest submission. Collaborating for big bets, it's a name we choose it, collaborating for big bets. So 103 countries participation with the 46 languages, and we got around 11 lakh submissions of films across from the world. So I think you people are going to be a witness for next month. You are going to be a witness for the India's biggest event, which is going to happen in Hyderabad on February 24th. We will all, if possible, we will all meet in event in Guinness World Record event. We are very happy to share platform with all you people on 24th of February. We'll send the invitations to everyone. So, I would like to thank you for giving an opportunity to be here.
Right, request Raju to please join us on stage, because the photo has to be both of you sitting there. Because his story, I still remember him talking about, he was sitting in those last rows of a development dialogue a few years back. And now today it's not just he's come to the stage, he's also gone to a stage where he gets to sit there and share his experience with the world. So that is one story that is surely need to celebrate. Congratulations, Karthik. Right. And the photo is going to be with both of you sitting on that sofa. Both of you sitting, please. To this.
I see some students at the back. Any of you heard about Karthik before, or is this the first time? You can raise your hands, please. That's around it now. Yeah, I'm talking about the students at the back. Okay, I can't see the hands as clearly, but anyway, I can hear your voices. That's great. Any of you feel inspired by what he's done? All right, wonderful. See, in the morning I mentioned that, a big part of the sandbox idea is that the power of relatable role models. What better role model than what Karthik has done, coming from a small village near Nizamabad, and all built this company in just 7 years. And believe me, he has 1,900 employees. Of course, I've built a sizable global company, but even at the peak, I never had more than 1,500 employees in India. So he's done far more than what I could have ever done, I ever did. So give him a big hand, please. I think that's really the future of India, the rural India, people like Karthik and others that you will meet through the course of the day and hear from. I think these are absolutely, this is the potential. It's not all about just improving farmer incomes and creating jobs for people coming from the villages. That's very important, absolutely. But people, there are several like Karthik who can actually become the job creators of tomorrow, right? I think that's the most important thing. And for those of you who are here from different parts of the world, thank you. Please, I mean, when you come here and engage with people like Karthik and others, it's immensely valuable, because you come with ideas, network, capital, talent, contacts, everything else. So once again, Karthik, I can be more proud. It was just last September, I went to the IT tower here in Nizamabad, and somebody said, I asked who are the big companies. They said the largest occupier of IT tower is a company called Chitterpur Films, and I had 90 employees. I said, wow, okay, right in Nizamabad. So I said, I'd like to meet the person who's heading that. And to my utter surprise, I go there, and Karthik happened to be there that day. And then, of course, I remember him. I don't quite recall, sort of all the work that he did back then. But, I mean, just, my heart swelled with pride when I saw him that day and when I heard his story. So thank you, all of you, for coming and listening to the story. And thank you, Karthik, for a wonderful job and inspiring.
Fabulous, fabulous. Now, giving a packet of wisdom to somebody who needs it, as against teaching them how to make it themselves. And maybe that is the difference we need to talk about. And that is the opportunity we need to talk about. So, please put your hands together as I invite on stage the moderator for the next panel. Somebody most of us know. Where the topic is
philanthropy. So charity is, they're both forms of giving, but there's a difference. Charity is an emotional response to a crisis, and typically could be a natural disaster, and it tends to be short-term in nature. Versus philanthropy is a long-term, strategic endeavor to address the root causes of social problems like poverty elimination or disease eradication. So with that in mind, I want to invite two philanthropists that are here today, NC Murthy, and I'll give an introduction of NC as he's coming up on the stage. So NC is a Tamilian who lived in Hyderabad with his parents. He did his engineering at Osmania University and masters at NITI Mumbai, which is IIM Mumbai today. In 1987, he went to America, and after working at a company, he decided to launch his own company, the online resources, and sold it. Subsequently, he sold 5 other companies, Metamore Enterprise Solutions, MZI Healthcare, New Haven Chemicals, New Haven Pure Alkali, and New Trace Inc., a cardiac mapping company. He's still the CEO of ACM Business Solutions. And as you can tell, he's a very successful CEO. I'd like to invite is Venkat Matella, who you saw on the stage before. He hails from a small village in near Tupran in Telangana called Padalpalli. Venkat started his career working at Tata Institute of Fundamentals Research in Mumbai and then worked in Hyderabad, then went to the US, worked for several large companies, but he too launched his own company, Red Pine Signals, that creates highly differentiated wireless technology. And after he sold it, he's now become the CEO of Ceramorphic Inc., which provides century-defining innovations for high-performance AI training, supercomputing market, and AI drug discovery. So, and Venkat did his master's at Jawaharlal Nehru Technology University, PhD in electrical engineering from IIT Hyderabad, and is a graduate of Harvard Business School. So Venkat too is that both of you are very successful entrepreneurs. You could have just continued on that journey. So why did you decide to do philanthropy? And because philanthropy is it's going to take up a lot of your time. And so I want to understand why you chose to do philanthropy. So I'll start with you, Venkat, and I'd love for NC to answer as well.
I choose philanthropy. Why not enjoy the life? You know, I want to really emphasize one thing. Everybody goes through in the life different phases. You come across different things. So when we say that enjoyment could come from your loving family, great friends, and your own accomplishments in whatever you are doing, your job or your education. I consider the philanthropy. I pursued those things so far. I went to the education, technology, entrepreneurship, making money. But I consider the philanthropy another pillar. That means more pillars you have, more enjoyment. It's not that philanthropy is not enjoyment. I consider it as enjoyment as well, because it's just adding another enjoyment pillar to my life. And another way to say that is not one or the other. So I do really enjoy life too. I have my regular running the company and contributing to the company's developments, and I have my personal life. But I definitely think that it gives me so much pleasure when I see people who are so energetic working for this cause. It's for me developing another pillar. It's not something that either or the or. It's both. I do whatever I'm doing, but this is just adding to my more personal life. And this question is very personal, because why do you do this? It's not like something I need to get a degree, but it's very much it's a huge accomplishment for me to interact with people like Raj, who I met, Desh and Jayashree. It's just inspiring. And young people here, Manish and his team, Shreya, Ajit, it's something that I enjoy interacting with them. So for me, it's a big.
Wonderful, thank you. What about you, NC?
I've always been interested in
doing this philanthropy from a very young age. You know, my mom was very generous, and I always had this goal. I said maybe after 60 I'll start, and because I had to fulfill my other obligations with my family and children. So I planned it like that, and unfortunately 2 years of delay with COVID. Otherwise, this was my goal for a long time. And this is something I want to do full time, and I enjoy doing it because I see the reward, even seeing I'm able to make a difference and seeing the happiness in people's faces.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir. How do you go about choosing a non-profit organization and a non-profit organization that you can trust?
I wanted to look for an organization which was, see, when I wanted to do this, I was looking to do it using my business skills and my passion for execution with the same passion and effectiveness that on the philanthropy side. So someone introduced me to Desh Foundation, and I saw the same principles where they were executing, like Raju said early in the morning, that they were executing with business-like commitment for efficiency and effectiveness, but with a compassion for doing the philanthropic work. So that's combination what I was looking for. So I can trust any company which is trying to do this, and that's why I have found this to be a good company, a good organization to work with.
Wonderful. Thank you. What about you, Venkat?
Just to add, but I think from my side, I come from a small town and farming family, but my life has been always education, technology, and entrepreneurship. And we are involved in some other places as well. But when I just first met Raju, I know him for more than 30 years. When he explained about last year, Rupal and Raju, when I met, when they explained about the agricultural segment and then the skill test and then the entrepreneurship, it actually matched to my environment, and I was able to connect because I come from the same region. And again, not only the model of this particular organization, but the people that made the biggest impact for me. For me, it's like the number one reason why I consider this organization not only matching to the type of things that I do, but the people I interacted with is something that is very unique. I've seen a lot of people all over the world, and I'm involved in some other things. Great organizations, and they are doing in their own capacity. Whereas here is addressing at the grassroots level, which I was able to connect myself. And I went to a school here, and I could see myself that 40 years ago, I'm not young, but I could see myself relating to the thing that this organization is doing, coupled with the team that Raju put together, and every one of you. It is just an amazing organization, so it was very easy for me to get involved in a much bigger scale.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Foundation and Kakatiya Sandbox. I'd like to just find out what has been your best moment of giving. So I'll see.
When I visited the Skill Plus Center in Sandipani College, which Manish arranged for me to visit, that was one of my favorite time spent. I was supposed to be there for an hour, but it went for 90 minutes because I could see the enthusiasm in all the children. They have been primed up by this program to be able to take on opportunities in the world. They are all very eager, very confident, very competent actually, and not only confident, but so it was very nice to interact with them. So it made me feel that, what a difference these programs can make, and it was an extremely rewarding experience personally.
Thank you. What about you?
Last year, visited team here, and the enthusiasm they showed, the energy in terms of wanting to do something, that is completely definitely made a good difference for me. And another thing, of course, is that when I met Desh and Deshi at their place, and their vision, and not just only doing one thing, but like I think Raju mentioned in the morning, the non-profit with the profit execution. Because the way he explained to me, it looked to me as like that I could understand the CEO language, and but apply that one along with the various CEOs, it but it so happened that one of the three was on entrepreneurship. We worked together. So it's a very, very amazing the way this whole thing is modeled. This is not something that you just give money somewhere and not having any visibility. It's a very, very well architected, very intelligent, very passionate people, and I could not find anything better than that. So
wonderful. Thank you so much. And setting up the MA, which is the Ensamurthy Ahar of India Food Tech Center, which is to help micro-entrepreneurship women. And I know, Venkat, you are wanting to support our initiative under CREST, which is the Kanvalveki Rural Entrepreneurship Center, for supporting the IIIT passer kids and helping them with their entrepreneurial dreams. Actually, we had signed the MOU here last year with IIIT passer and the Kakatiya Sandbox. So it's lovely. Thank you so much. I would like to ask Shrikant Pakala. I hope he's in the audience. Shrikant, are you there? Oh, okay. So I'd like to ask Shaheen Hassan, who's representing the ILA Foundation. As you know, Deshpande Foundation has now, and Kakatiya Sandbox, we've taken three of our very special projects to other states like Maharashtra and Rajasthan, and ILA Foundation has helped us. I'd love to know how has this association with our organization worked for you, Shaheen?
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Rupal Foundation, which has spearheaded at least 45 to 50 projects related to tourism, environment, women empowerment, education, heritage conservation, and healthcare. So the ILA Foundation was actually very much inspired by the grassroots work which the Deshpande Foundation has been doing, especially the farm ponds, and how the rural economy has been impacted with such interventions. The founder of the ILA Foundation, Mr. Malvindra Singh Shekhawat, had a chance to speak to Mr. Deshpande, and it was essentially decided to build 10 farm ponds as a pilot project. But we did our homework, started with a feasibility study of 30 farm ponds, and the project was submitted to the foundation, Deshpande Foundation. So 30 farm ponds were built in 60 days, and this essentially helped us in reaching out to 7 villages, impacting 35 families, collecting over 95,000 cubic meter of water, and 225 livestock being benefited out of this. Now we hope to build and take this initiative forward to 100 more farm ponds in the state of Rajasthan under the initiative Greening Rajasthan, one village at a time. And we hope to build this initiative further with over 1,000 farm ponds in Rajasthan with the help of Deshpande Foundation. We hope so. Thank you so much.
ప్రోడక్ట్ మన తరపు నుంచి రైతుల క్యాలెండర్, ఇది చాలా ముఖ్యమైనది. ఇది మనం ఇందాక ఎంత డిస్కస్ చేసుకున్నా కూడా ఇందులో ప్రతి ఒక్క అంశం ప్రెకల్స్ లేని ప్రతి మన క్యాలెండర్ని లాస్ట్ ఇయరే స్టార్ట్ చేయడం జరిగింది. అండ్ ఎవ్రీ ఇయర్ దాన్ని అప్డేట్ చేసుకుంటూ వస్తున్నాము. అందులో ఉన్న మొబైల్ నెంబర్స్ ద్వారా అండ్ అలాగే క్యూఆర్ కోడ్ సహాయంతో రైతు ఎక్కడున్నా కూడా ఈ నెలలో ఏ పద్ధతులు పాటించాలి, ఈ పద్ధతిలో క్యూఆర్ కోడ్ ద్వారా యూట్యూబ్లో ఉన్న వీడియోస్ కూడా రైతు మొబైల్లోకి రావడం జరుగుతుంది. ఇది డిజైన్ చేసిన వారందరికీ కూడా మనస్ఫూర్తిగా కృతజ్ఞతలు. థ్యాంక్ యూ సో మచ్ సార్.
ఇవ్వాలని చెప్పేసి మన విచ్చేసిన వాళ్ళందరికీ కోరుతున్నాను.
So, welcome back all of you. I know this is the most, anybody was a trainer or a facilitator, we call this the graveyard shift. Because it feels like you're standing right in the middle of the graveyard and trying to deliver a lecture. People are listening to you, right? But let me also tell you there is some beautiful stuff, and I'm pretty sure growth entrepreneurship. There's so much will start the post-lunch session will take care of energy. we started the day with. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes if you know your friends, peers, colleagues. Where we're talking about from micro to bioregion, designing for sustainability. Because the minute we talk about sustainability, we will have to zoom in, and zoom in till we get the finest of details right. Because unless and until we do that, we just can't get things right. The moderator for this session, Mr. Venki Ramachandran, the founder of Agribusiness Matters, a research and consulting firm, he writes, which goes out to over 30,000 plus agritech professionals across the globe. He also works as an agritech consultant and works with agribusinesses, agritech founders and investors across US, Europe, India and Central America. Now, just when you put your hands together, I say welcome our very own Venki Ramachandran.
थोड़ा आगे आ सकते हैं। आई एम अ बिग लवर ऑफ कबीर और कबीर का एक दोहा होता है, उससे मैं शुरू करूं। पानी पानी रटते रटते प्यासा ही मर जाए, पानी पानी रटते रटते प्यासा ही मर जाए। I keep repeating water, water and die of thirst. Oftentimes when I look at the word sustainability that's thrown around every little time, that's the feeling I always get. You know, Bernard Shaw used to say this famous quote, you know, that the problem with communication is the illusion that it actually happened. And I can very well say that if today we were to talk about sustainability, he would say that the problem with sustainability, we think it is already sustainable. Because we keep talking about it so many times. So what is really sustainable? And when we say we are designing for sustainability, what do we mean? So that's where this scary little topic comes in. Because, you know, I'm going to talk about, you know, I work in the areas of culture and agriculture. And I realize that agriculture is the only domain where the culture piche piche aa jata hai. I studied mechanical. Mechanical was not called mechaniculture. Right? It's only agriculture that was called as agriculture. And I was always fascinated by this topic, and that's where I decided to move away from IT and technology and get into agriculture. So, you know, just to give you another example, right? How many people are fans of Lord Ganesha? Great. So, have you wondered, you know, we're not going to talk about getting to religious pravachan mein nahi jana wale yahan pe, but have you wondered why do we have humans before us have created this symbol of a human with an elephant head sitting on top of a mouse? Kabhi socha kya? Ki why have we designed this kind of way where the human has an elephant head but is sitting on top of a mouse? Any guesses? Can we pass the mic? It's okay. Any guesses? Any thoughts? Why do we do that? See, at some level, when we are looking at the whole problem of sustainability, we need to think about a macro level, which is where an elephant comes in, and also a micro level, which is where a rat comes in. So whether you agree or whether you believe in faith or religion or not, it doesn't matter. At some level in our culture, we always had this phenomenon of trying to connect the macro with the micro. And that's where we are talking about this whole aspect of micro to bioregion. Right? It's very sad that we couldn't be a part of the agri panel there out there where farmers are talking a lot. But I'm sure most of the conversations would have been about how to transition farmers from heavy dose chemicals, synthetic chemicals to more to a sustainable form of agriculture. So there we are doing a lot of efforts, but at the same time, we are also looking at some levels, how do we build economies and local scale economies that are sustainable. And that's where the bioregion concept comes in. So to discuss this topic, I'm going to invite three of very dear friends with whom I've been chatting about and discussing about sustainability for a very long time. I would like to welcome Sameer Sishodia, CEO of Green Matter Foundation. And Manohar Malani, Managing Director, NCS Green of Private Limited. How interesting their conversation is going about. Agriculture is an unsustainable venture. Businesses are not really so serious about sustainability for soil, and governments think the only job that they have to do is keep the prices of the food down. In such a kind of scenario, what is it that we can do to kind of look at design for sustainability? And that is the larger areas that we want to cover, right? I want to start off with Sameer. In Sameer, in your website, you almost talk about that, like building for bioregions or doing the right kind of investments is not charity but an investment for the future. But I want to be really honest with you and ask you that how do you convince your investors and then say that this is an investment for the future? Because we are not really used to looking at this kind of investment at all, right? How do you do this?
Thanks. I think this is a very important topic, the macro and micro. So thanks for doing this. I think sustainability has to be understood in the opposite of that word. If something is unsustainable, it stops to exist. Like somebody said earlier, if our soils are unsustainable, we are looking at a food security crisis. If our water systems are unsustainable, we're staring at hell. If our air quality is unsustainable, I already know friends who are getting out of Delhi, right? But it's not just Delhi, it's Hyderabad's air quality was pretty poor, Bombay's is pretty poor, all the places are getting there. So essentially the bank is starting to go empty, right? And that's how you got to look at it. Like unsustainability is the word we have to really focus on. Sustainability has a very feel-good factor to it. Yeah, cloth bag area, bamboo product area, right? But unsustainable means it will stop existing. Your current way of life, your food systems, your production systems, your shareholder value, everything will draw down to zero. Is it 10 years away, 30 years away, 100 years away? Is not for me to predict. I think that's a very tough one. But I think we first have to understand that we are staring at drawing down to zero.